Welcome to the Pride and Prejudice Book Club. I'm Emily Davis,
And I'm sharing Cortez.
and this week we read Enamored. Oops, can the screen see it? No. Enamored by Jessie Lewis. Yes, we read Enamored by Jessie Lewis, and you guys all know I am such a Jessie Lewis fangirl. She is so much fun for me to read, and I'm so excited to talk about it today. But this is the biggest like spoiler warning I'm going to give because this book truly kept me reading up all night. And it's because the main premise of the book, you just want to know what the answer is. So if you have not read this book and you have any intention of reading this book, do not listen to this episode until you finish the book.
I read it within a day. Once
Oh,
it came out in KU, I was like, I gobbled it up. So you need to
yeah.
go read it.
Well, I am very, very grateful to Quills and Quartos. They are willing to send me advanced copies of books. And I don't actually take them up on it all the time, which Sharon, you're probably like, why? What's the matter with you? But there's this little part of me that's just a little hesitant that I'm like, well, I'm going to read their stuff anyways. The majority of it's on Quills and is on Kindle Unlimited. So I don't have to get an advanced copy because by the time it comes out, I usually can read it in like a day and then we can still have a discussion. So I'm like, they don't need to send me copies or blah, blah. But I 100%, if it's a Jessie Lewis book, I'm like, yes, please send me soon as humanly possible. Get it in the mail. Let's go. And they sent me a physical copy, which I love because I love having it. I love holding it. I love like fangirling over it. And I didn't know how to read late at night because I no longer have a book light. Like I don't, it's not something I own anymore. I read everything on my phone. And so I had to set my phone on my chest with like the flashlight on and like trying to balance it with like my chin just like this, like holding the book, trying to read it. It was so ridiculous. And I was just like, man, I was this close to running into my daughter's room and like stealing her book light, which I should have done. That probably would have been easier. But yes, all night. I
Mhm.
forced myself to go to bed at 4:30 because I had to wake up at 8 for the baby.
Do you like to read on your phone or do you have like a Kindle?
I have my phone. I read
Same.
on my phone. Yeah. So Alicia always read on her Kindle and she really likes having it separate. I tried that once, but what I found is I love reading in the cracks of my life. So,
Yeah.
at a restaurant, standing in line, whatever. And so my phone is always with me all the time.
Same here. I read it during nap times. I read it during when I have to put my baby to sleep and she's like all cuddled up in me. I'll just be like, okay, let me just read. Then what happened?
Well, so I had my four older babies were born between 2007 and 2013. And the smartphone, our family didn't even get smartphones, I think, until 2014. That was when we finally got them. And I have to say, it was a huge difference when I was like up late with babies and things like that. Because yeah, like with my oldest, I did a lot of reading, but I actually binged DVDs more because when you're nursing and stuff like that, I was
Yeah.
like watching a lot of shows and doing things like that. But yeah, with my youngest, same thing. It's like when I'm nursing, I'm like, I just got my phone off to the side and I get to cuddle her and have her, but I'm also sitting there reading. Or I had like an earbud in and I could listen to a book or anything. It was a very different experience. I really didn't mind putting the baby to bed as much like with my older, not that I like resented it, but when my older were little, it took a long time. It was kind of this feeling of like, okay, just get to bed, just get to bed, just get to
Yeah.
bed. But if I could be reading anyway, I was like, no, this is fine. We'll just cuddle and the world can go on.
That's how I feel now. And it's so funny. Before baby, I read a lot, but now post baby, I feel like I'm reading even more. Just because there's like those forced nap times, those forced early bedtimes. I'm just like, all right, let me just what are Lizzie and Darcy up to right now?
I was thinking about it, Sharon, and we've had a lot of authors interviewed on this podcast, and a
Yeah.
lot of them got started because of having a baby. Like maternity leave or just having a
Yeah.
baby disrupting their life in some way made them either start reading a lot more fan fiction or it made them inspired them to finally start writing it because they needed an outlet for creativity while they were away from work or something like that. And so I was thinking about you because you'd admitted that you'd like played a little bit with writing.
I am. I am
You're that
playing. It's
pipeline.
terribly hard.
That's what I hear. I do hear that.
Yeah. Oh man, so funny.
Mhm.
The one that I'm trying to write is between like to like fix the marriage of the Mr. and Mrs. Bennet, But then MJ Strand, she wrote a Freaky Friday book and she did like the premise that I wanted to do. And I feel so complete. Now I feel like I don't have to write mine.
I guess you just have to wait till you get another kernel of an idea, and then you
I
can
know, right?
do that. All right, 30-second summaries.
Woo woo.
I'll go first. Let me see if I
Go
can.
first. All right. On your mark, get set, go.
Mrs. Bennet is caught in flagrante delicto with Mr. Bingley, and Darcy catches them, and it's like, oh, scary. And so she runs off to London, and Mr. Bennet sends Elizabeth after her, and Darcy's going after Bingley to try to like figure out what's going on with Bingley. And so they keep crossing paths and having all these cute light scenes and things like that. But Darcy had discouraged Jane, and so when Elizabeth finds out, then she gets mad at him. But then to try to explain why he discouraged her, then he shares what is happening and it like melts her world. But then they end up happily ever after.
Ding.
Not enough time. Not nearly enough time.
Oh my goodness. I feel
Okay.
like the beginning of the book and the end of the book is two different books, but we'll see. All right, let's see how I do.
Ready? Go.
Mrs. Bennet and Mr. Bingley hook up during the Netherfield Ball, which is like what, but it kind of makes sense. And then Mr. Darcy catches them. He tells Bingley, "Hey, this is bad. Flee." So then they all go to London. Elizabeth is chasing her mom because her mom also left to London mysteriously for many months. He's chasing Bingley. She's chasing Miss Bennet, and celebrity culture mobs them in.
Time. Celebrity culture mobs them. That's a good way of looking at it. It's celebrity culture.
Literally, that
Doesn't
I
I didn't
think,
even get to the ton starts
yeah,
like whispering about Darcy and Elizabeth being everywhere together and wanting them to be together and so that's what makes Darcy start thinking, hey, maybe this will actually work. And they start using it to their advantage.
I think it's really interesting how celebrity culture is just has always existed. Like,
Mhm.
I think it's such a primal aspect of humanity that people forget.
Mhm.
Like, if it wasn't kings and queens, it was like the strongest warrior. If it wasn't the strongest warrior, it's like whatever is like hot in the moment, like people always kind of gravitate to it. And it's just, I think with online, it's just exploited
Mhm.
that aspect of our humanity, I think.
Oh, definitely. And you just made me think about some of my favorite movies from when I was young. I loved A Knight's Tale. It has Heath Ledger. Have you ever seen that one? Where they treat the jousting champions like they're huge athletic celebrities today, that they have like big parades,
Yeah.
stuff like that. And I really love that. Another one is Hercules, the Disney cartoon.
Oh, yeah.
Because that one's so funny just in how they elevate him to celebrity status and he has like merchandise and stuff like that and everyone trying to chase him down. Um, but yeah, I like it when stories we don't expect it in reflect that back to us that yes, humans had something like this. Maybe it doesn't look exactly the way it does today, like with the internet and things like that, but this has always existed. And that is probably how we got monarchies and things like that, is people assuming power from being popular.
Yeah. It really is, humanity really is a popularity contest. And it's not the best thing about humanity, but it's very human. It's not our best trait, but it is one of our very famous traits, I think. Oh man.
All
What do
right,
you
so
think about Mr. Bingley and Mrs. Bennet hooking up? What was that?
this is the most unique plot point this year. It's kind of closely tied with, we read another book which hasn't been released yet, but about Bingley being an assassin, essentially.
Yeah.
So that was also pretty bonkers, as you like to say. We've had some bonkers books that we've read recently. But this premise, I've never seen anybody play with that. And yet on the back of the book is the quote, "You are as handsome as any of them. Mr. Bingley might like you best of the party." Which is 100% from Pride and Prejudice. Like we are
Yeah.
told Mrs. Bennet is handsome. Mr. Bennet makes a joke about it. And it was funny because in my head, I had to kind of, when I was reading Mrs. Bennet's lines, I still often hear the 1995 Mrs. Bennet, like the way that she says stuff, because that's so um, just like such a anchor point for me in the depiction of Mrs. Bennet. But I had to, in my head, make an adjustment and make her actually be more like Alex Kingston, who played River Song in Doctor Who. She was like in her
Yeah.
40s when she played that character. And I was like, okay, I gotta make her more like that, like kind of an outlandish personality who is still really beautiful. Or like if Emma Thompson became unhinged, or I mean Kate Beckinsale in the movie Love and Friendship, she's a very refined and manipulative person, but she also is in that, she was like 40s or 50s. She may have been in her 50s when she did that movie. But they're these beautiful women and like trying to reposition how she could be the Mrs. Bennet from Pride and Prejudice and still have this plot make sense. And it works. It works. But yes, it is bonkers. It is not one I would have anticipated. And it was so delicious to me to have to like go the whole book wondering, are they still carrying on or are they not? Because, there's hints throughout it that they hadn't actually continued it, but it was really hard to know for sure. So that's what
I
kept.
was so confused. I couldn't even come up with a theory because I was just like, Jesse Lewis had like a thread and I was just going along. I literally couldn't even think what was going on. I was like, she's gonna tell me because I have no clue. I feel like I was Elizabeth. I don't feel like I'm Elizabeth a lot. But in this, I totally understand Elizabeth trying to chase down her mom, being confused. And I was like, if my mom disappeared, I would be chasing her. Like if she doesn't answer a FaceTime call for me, I'm like calling my brother and be like, what's mom up to? Why isn't she answering me? So I totally believe like Elizabeth's kind of like almost desperation of like, where's mom? But I think Bingley having a cougar type of tendencies at first, when I first read it on Monday, I was like, oh, this is crazy. I don't believe it. But then I sat with it a few days. I'm like, no, I totally believe it. I totally believe that Bingley likes an older woman who like knows what she's doing. And I was like, you know what? That should be canon. That's canon in my head. That's my head canon now.
Well, when we interviewed Jessie Lewis, oh gosh, almost 2 years ago now, which is crazy, she admitted she's not a Bingley fan. She's like, oh,
No.
he's, I think she might have called him rubbish or something like that, something very British. And so every time she releases a book, I always like kind of watch for that or short stories. And sure enough, when I messaged her to tell her how much I love this book, she's like, I was wondering what you would think about what I did to Bingley in this one. I'm like, I was all for it. I was all for it because, like you said, it works with how little we know of Bingley. Aside from him being Darcy's oldest friend, which would hopefully inspire some confidence that like he's a good person. That's the only other thing we really have that says yes, maybe he is, because he does leave. He does abandon Jane.
Yeah.
He comes back, but we don't get a lot of depth. Is that just because Darcy said that he should try again, or does he have a lot of conviction? We're just getting mostly hearsay from Jane's point of view, and this book makes Jane so dense. I would say she just is like taking everything at surface
Yeah.
level. She's very kind, but she does not seem to be thinking critically about anything that they're interacting with. So I'm like, well, okay, if you're a Jane stan, like if you really love Jane and you want her to be like perfect angels, probably would not be a good read for you. But this one just keeps her at a very surface level, and I'm like, yeah, I could see it. I could see
You
this.
know, I totally believe Jane though in her like denseness because who amongst us has not had a middle school crush where every little thing you're like, oh, he totally likes me. Oh, he still because he glanced my way, or like, oh, he totally meant to brush my like, that little bit of obsession in middle school slash high school, right? But in that like boy crazy phase of young girlhood I think Jane was a little bit too old to be thinking this way, but then I think about like her situation and how Regency England, she doesn't have that much experience out in the world. So I believed it because I've been there. Was I a lot younger? Yes. 15-year-old Sharon was she was connecting dots that were not there. Just, oh man. But at the end she kind of like accepted it and was willing to move on. I mean, did she cry a few tears? Did she listen to a few Taylor Swift songs? She should have burned some stuff, but she's Jane. She's more gentle. I did burn stuff. But I think it's part of womanhood. You got to burn something. Like those little trinkets that you get or you perceive to get.
That's true. I mean, when you describe it like that, I'm like, okay, so this Jane is actually a bit more like Harriet Smith from Emma.
Mhm. Yeah,
She's a bit more on that side of like just kind of going along with things. Um, but you know, it made the plot work.
I
But
did.
the Elizabeth Darcy interactions, I love how often we're in Darcy's head. I mean, it's
Yes.
bounced back and forth, but I've said this before. I love how Jesse Lewis writes Darcy, and there's just so many little tidbits throughout where he's just like him realizing like I want this, I want Elizabeth, like this is what I want in my life. And I texted her and said, "Thank you for letting him smile," because that's the other thing too is he smiles so much in this book. He sees her and he can't help himself. He smiles. They're talking and he smiles. I'm like, yes, because so many books won't let Darcy smile, even though it happens in the real book. People go back and read it. It does say Darcy smiled numerous times. He's allowed to smile. And I love that we're seeing whatever's inside him, like he can't even hold it back. He's like, I genuinely enjoy being around her and I want to see her. And that just makes me so happy.
I think it felt like it really did feel like a romantic movie when they kept bumping into each other. It felt like, oh, this is fate. This is like destined. I got so excited every time they like accidentally bumped into each other. I was just like, I'm a sucker for that. I'm a sucker when like there's this Taylor Swift song, it's called Invisible String, where it just talks about how like you keep bumping into people or you keep having these accidental like connections
Mhm.
and how it's just like it's like the string that's like tying you together. And whenever I read those type of stories, I eat it up. Those are my favorites.
Me too. I mean, I love my own love story has a lot of like accidental bumping into each other. Now, I did find out later some of them weren't so accidental, but they felt very accidental at the time. When you like somebody, you try to be where you think they're going to be. You try to make yourself
Yeah.
available, and that's proximity is one of the biggest indicators of romantic development. And I love movies where people like bump into each other, like all of it. Yes. And I
I
just
love Harry Met Sally. When they kept bumping into each other, I was just like, yeah, yeah, give me more, give me more. There needs to be more like, oh, also One Day. That was a really tragic one though. There's also like Love Rosie or From Rosie, where it's like they're best friends and they keep like bumping into each other. Normal People. That's a really spicy one, but it's so good. I just love it when it just goes through their whole lives and they just keep bumping into each other.
yeah.
I'm a sucker for second chance romance too.
Yeah. And this has kind of that element of it
Yeah.
that this is Darcy's chance, don't blow it. And then of course he
Mhm.
does because that's what we show it for is for Darcy to blow
Yeah.
it and realize he did. Okay, so the way Darcy blows it in this one, a couple things I want to go over. Number one, I you've heard me rant before about you need to write your own fight because too many people
Yeah.
try to force Jane Austen's fight into the middle of their story, even if they don't have the supporting materials. So I love that Elizabeth was still mad, but she had her own legit reasons based on what had happened in this book for being mad and finding everything out from Jane and then having her own like explosion with him. So I liked that. And then I liked that his response, we're expecting him to like write a letter and do the whole thing, but he didn't. He talks to her in person and tells her the worst news that he could tell her. And then how long it takes for him to realize, why did I do that? That's really messed up. I need to take a good look at myself. You know, like that's what makes him realize that he's not the person he thought he was, that he would tell the woman he thought he loved something so devastating without having all of the facts and things like that. That was interesting. What did you think about that?
To be honest, I didn't know how I would break the news to Elizabeth either. There's just no gentle way. Like through a letter, I feel like it feels impersonal. Like if I was writing, hey, your mom was hooking up with my best friend. How do you even break news
So
to
I guess the
even
real
to
question
this
is, did he
day?
need to? That's my real question is, did
I
he?
think he did. Or I was like, because she was mad that he was like discouraging Jane, doing Jane the like, I think an act of kindness of like, hey, like,
Mhm.
Bingley is not the one for you. I think he had to tell her like why the thing about her mom, and why I think it was a necessary piece of context. But I just keep going throughout this whole week because after I read the Jesse Lewis books, I needed it to like marinate for a little bit. And I did, I purposely only read like really short novellas, not like anything dense. And I was really thinking about it. I was like, I don't know. This happened today to me. And I had to tell a friend, a girlfriend of mine, hey, like, I saw your mom hook up with my best friend. I don't, I don't, there's no good way to tell that news, I think.
Well, I
The
guess
way he did it wasn't good, but I don't know what of a good way to say that to.
my question and the
Mhm.
reason he did self-examination is did he actually have to tell her that though, in order to tell her that he warned off Jane for good reason? Did he actually have to tell her your mom had an affair with Bingley? Because couldn't he have just said like I am sorry for interfering. I was trying to warn her off because I know things about Bingley that she does not know.
But
And
then Elizabeth would have been like, "What? What do you know?" Because you know how she is. I know Elizabeth. She'd be like, "What do you know? You have to tell." She would have,
maybe. Well,
like
and
with
I'm not even saying
Wickham, she was like accosting him in the Netherfield Ball, like, "Well, he lost your friendship. I wonder what happened there." So I feel like she would have been controversial. I think in
well,
my head.
we will never know because this is how it was written. This is how it came
Yeah,
out. And I honestly do not know if I was in a situation like that where I knew that kind of information. I don't know. Like because yeah, it's pretty devastating to
it
find out
is
that she knows
devastating.
about.
And but the way he went about it, I think the intention.
Mhm.
And like he didn't, like he was sitting behind his desk. She was sitting like almost like a principal's office,
Mhm.
right? Because she was like sitting across from him from the desk, and he said it so coldly, and he's like kind of like, oh, once I tell her this, she's gonna fall in love with me. I don't know where he got that logic, men, but then, and then she just like bolted, and I feel like I would have bolted too. Had it been me, I would have ran. I don't know if I would have fainted. I'm not a fainting type, but I definitely would have been like, oh, I simply have to go. Bye.
I did like he chased after her though.
Yeah.
Because once you realize you screw up, you're like,
Yeah.
oh, let me fix this.
But maybe it would have been better if it came from her, like Mrs. Bennet.
Hmm.
Maybe if Mr. Darcy was like, hey, he's like hooking up with the cougar, like that's why Jane, he's, I just don't approve with these actions. That's why I warned Jane off. That would have been fine. And then maybe it should have come from Mrs. Bennet herself, like saying, hey, I totally messed up, Jane's prospects, and had like a real conversation. Because my only nitpick of this book was that Mrs. Bennet goes back to Longbourn, but we don't hear anything else. It's like dead silent.
Yeah.
And I think moms and daughters have a complicated relationship. Even I love I'm a mommy's girl. Guys, I FaceTime my mom like 3 times a day. I'm always at my mom's house. Like, I steal her clothes. Like, it's just such a mommy's girl. And even me and my mom, we have this complicated relationship where if we don't hash things out, it like it like festers. It becomes like. So I feel like I wish there was that conversation. But then maybe Mrs. Bennet's not able to have that conversation with Elizabeth. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I always want the book to be longer, always. Like that's my number one complaint of any Jesse Lewis book is you stop too soon. Like, why didn't you just keep going and keep writing? But whatever. Um, because yeah, the ending was a bit abrupt for me. It was just like it had to stop at some point. There's kind of a natural conclusion is yeah, they got married. So happily ever
Yeah.
after, yay. But yeah, I would have liked to have seen a bit more of what happens next. And you never know. I mean, Jesse released a chapter ages later for Mistaken where it showed Bingley and Darcy making up like a couple of years after the events of that book. And so we
Yeah.
may someday get the reconciliation of Lizzie with her mom. Um, because I mean, Mrs. Bennet's a very complicated character, but this book was about Lizzie and Darcy. It wasn't actually about Mrs.
That's
Bennet.
true.
She just was the inciting incident. And so, we only get little tiny hints of her, and she's not a very impressive person. Like it definitely doesn't do
Yeah.
anything to make me feel better about her. So I do feel a lot of empathy for her. In the tea room scene where she shares like, why should I go back, Elizabeth? I should go back to a husband that disdains me, neighbors that gossip about me, children that don't respect me. When she's going on that little rant, you're like, yeah, you do feel bad for her
Yeah.
because she is treated contemptuously by other characters. And so you don't really want that for her. An affair is not the right way to go about it.
No.
And of course, we do get the answer that the reason she stayed as long as she did in London is because she was trying to make sure she wasn't pregnant, which is unfortunate, but makes sense. But it makes you feel like maybe you should have come up with a better excuse for going away for 2 months.
Yeah.
And I would have liked to have known a bit more about that fight she had with Mr. Bennet, but
Same. Oh, I just want to know everything. I'm just such a like, I want to be a fly in that room, in every room. But going to Darcy and Elizabeth's celebrity moment,
Mhm.
I wish that Jesse Lewis had like had someone illustrate the caricature where they're at the altar and it's like, no, I don't know her, I don't know him, and they're like getting married. I would have put that as my wallpaper.
Yeah, the gossip rag have
Yeah,
deny it. Yeah, that's cute. Maybe you said there's that illustrator person that does a lot of Pride and Prejudice.
right. I should
Get
tell
her
her like, hey, can you read this book and can you do the character?
like the commission, a special piece here. Yeah, that would be really fun.
Oh man, but I think it's so interesting how everybody's like, these two are together, these two together, and Darcy's like, wait, he keeps denying it, but then later he's like, oh wait, this is what I wanted
Hmm.
people to accept her, and here I am denying that I know her or I'm intimate with her in any way, shape, or form.
Yes, yes. And I
Oh
loved all the little scenes that they had where people are hinting at it and him denying it, but getting more and more half-hearted about the denials. And he
yeah.
always was trying not to stoke the fire. He knew if he gave an adamant, no, I am not, then people would just like think he really was. But then when his cousin says they like it when the rules are broken, not regularly, but now and then, and especially when the one breaking them is a renowned stickler as you, and those who do not approve still love the scandal of it. Like that scene was really fun.
And it's so true. Like when my brother's very square, like he's like, these are the rules. Like my food can't touch each other. Oh, he only wears t-shirts that have no graphics. Like that's
Mm.
his because according to him, he doesn't want to show off. But he wears neon yellow, neon green, neon blue, he has these like rules about it, right? But then when he breaks his own rules, I'm like, why is your avocado touching your tomato? Oh my gosh, are you okay? Like those little things make it like, oh, snaps, this is noteworthy.
Yeah.
So he was totally right on
Yeah. Well, and then
that.
I really loved it when Darcy's, yet again denying that he and Elizabeth are together, but that his cousin, because his cousin has started giving him a little bit of hope. I love this line. It says, Darcy opened his mouth to protest, then he closed it again and frowned. Reason dictated that the Ton simply did not accept people of Elizabeth's station, yet his cousin, repeatedly insisting otherwise, had opened a small crack in his carefully constructed defenses, through which hope had shoved its head and began calling to him like a lunatic. I love that.
Oh, so
Siren's Call of Elizabeth.
yes. I think one very funny characteristic of Darcy that I keep seeing over and over in variations is that he gets in his head.
Mhm.
And you know what? That is such a man thing to do. Like, oh, we can't do that because X, Y, and Z. It's like, why does XYZ matter? Can't we go around it? Can we go under it? Can we go on? And then they're like, oh, okay, yeah.
I don't know if it's a man thing. I know quite a few women who get stuck in their head too. But it is a Darcy thing. And I think the proposal scene in Hunsford
Hmm.
supports that. Like
Yeah.
him detailing everything that's been and said, like telling her all of the things, shows how much he'd been in his head. So that then when he finally says them out loud, it's like, you idiot, why would you do that? But only a person who's spent too much time in their head would think that like other people want to hear
Yeah.
this, right?
It's like, let me tell you, they take out their whiteboard. Let me show you what I've been thinking for the past.
For the past 4 months, I've been pretty obsessive about all these things, but I want to let you know that I got rid of all these fears that she had been completely unaware of or even a thing, just
Yeah.
that way about it. And so, yes, Darcy definitely is an in his head kind of a person. So it's fun to see, and I guess that's why I like being from his perspective, and not a lot of variations. Well, wait, let me check this. I feel like the majority that we read are primarily from Elizabeth's perspective. I mean, Pride and Prejudice
Yeah.
itself is primarily from Elizabeth's perspective, with only little light dustings of us getting Darcy's thoughts thrown in. And and so that's the perspective we're used to seeing. So anytime it comes from him instead, I'm like, oh, it's so delicious. It's just nice finding out how he falls in love because he spends so much of the book being in love, whereas Elizabeth spends so much of the book not being in love. So that's the direction I like being.
I think I love reading him falling in love because as women, we don't get into our significant others' heads and see how they fall in love with us.
But we
They
wish
tell
we did.
us, but we can't like physically like go and see like let's see how
That's
you fell in love with me. So I think there was this TikTok trend, like, I don't know, like a year or two ago, where they asked their significance like others, hey, how'd you fall in love with me? And then like 2 months later, how'd you fall in love with me? And then 3 months later, oh, how'd you fall, like keep like asking. And it's, I think it's, and I do that to my husband all the time too. So when we read from Darcy's character, I'm just like, yes, yes, give me more, give me more, give me more.
That probably is why I love it so much because
Yeah.
so I've been married almost 20 years, especially in the first decade of our marriage. I spent a fair amount of time trying to understand my husband's perspective on absolutely everything that had happened to us, like
Yeah.
our courtship and stuff like that, which wasn't a significant amount of time. Like we did not have a long courtship or engagement. And so he didn't have that many things he had to recount. And yet he got to a certain point, he's just like, honey, I don't know. I honestly could not tell you what I thought, felt, was experiencing at that moment in time because I barely remembered that that even happened. Like, it didn't lodge in his brain the way it did with mine. And so, it's we all have the chance to write our own fairy tales, like how we
Yes.
tell the story matters. And so I definitely have my version that I've compiled based on like those interviews of this is what happened. But at the same time, 20 years later, I'll never know really how he felt. And I do, I want to like dive into that character and be like, what was going on? Why do you like me? Why do you love me? Like, why did this even become a thing? I want to understand. And he doesn't like poking that bear on the other side. Like, he doesn't want to know what I felt because he's always terrified that maybe I don't actually love him or something. And he's like, I don't want to know. I don't want to know.
I think as women, we, when we love more freely and we love with more empathy, more compassion, like I think I can empathize with the rock. And I'm like, oh man, look at this, my pet rock, you know? Like, and so when a man falls in love, I'm like, give me more, give me more. And then how do you feel? And how did the wind blow? Did that change how you felt? How about when I was doing this? How about, and I annoy my husband all day with that too. It's like, do you like me today? What do you like about me? Say 5 things that you like about me. And he's like, he's used to me now, but
Yeah. Well, speaking of TikTok,
yes.
number one, we have a TikTok now, people.
Woo-hoo.
Go find us at PNP Book Club. And our name is the Pride and Prejudice Book Club. So should be able to find us hopefully. And we'll start posting content. This is new for me, but we will get there. And I saw on TikTok yesterday, there was this woman who was doing a dual scene of like her talking to like a therapist friend or something. But the therapist friend was talking about studies showing that men actually fall in love on average a month before their partner does, even though women tend to get more obsessive about relationships, especially compared to men. Men, though, fall more deeply as well. Like there was this weird like dynamic between all the different categories of like men may not show it as much, like in the obsessive way, but they are falling first and they fall deeper.
I think it's because it can't survive without us.
And
The
actually,
study shows,
yeah,
widowers, those are men, right?
yeah.
Widowers, they pass away right after their wives. They just can't survive without us. They really can't.
Survival. Needed for survival.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
How would you rate this book?
oh, well, this is a recommend
Yeah.
10,000%. Like everyone saw that coming. But in the pantheon of Jesse Lewis books, for me, it is still Mistaken. I could re-listen and reread that book like every week. I love that book. Second one is Unfounded. Really love that one. I think this one would be third for me. I really, really enjoy this one. And so after that is probably Speechless. Although, oh, no, Cad the Couch and the Cut Direct, then Speechless. Cad
Oh,
the Couch and the Cut Direct,
I
though,
do
is
like that one too.
yeah,
One's
that one's a
really
little
good.
too short. And I think the reason why this one doesn't go higher on the list is just because those first two, Darcy and Elizabeth get married partway through the book. And so you have so many more scenes of them being in love together. And that's just hard to beat. Like you
Yeah.
just, you can't get that. This book cuts off. It had a second half after they got married, where we find out more about Mrs. Bennet and what happens with her. You know, then maybe it would go up higher, but definitely a very, very fun read for me. How about you?
I really did like this one. It got me hooked. I really like I was that fish on the hook. I was going along with the story. I loved seeing Darcy realize how, all his objections were kind of falling apart. I loved the little twist on Lady Catherine. She turned out to be nice-ish, kind of. I loved how Elizabeth was like, "Oh wait, am I falling in love with him too?" Question mark, question mark. And then she did fall in love with him. I loved it. This was such a good one. Yeah, it would be a recommend 10,000 for me. I'll definitely keep it up there in the high shelf of my little Kindle library.
You're allowed to have a B. This is my jam too, by the way. Just because
Yes.
I'm a super big fangirl doesn't mean you have to like put it up there. But
Oh man, it's just all these books are 10,000 recommend for me. I'm just like, hey, here, read this one, read this one.
you're an
Oh
enthusiast.
man.
What can you
I
say?
am. I am. I wish
Yeah.
I could have all of them as physical copies and have like a giant Beauty and the Beast library scenario. And they're like, oh, what are these books? I'd be like, Darcy and Elizabeth. Every single one? Yes.
All right. So the next thing that we're going to be tackling is what you've referred to as a bonkers book.
Bonkers book.
That's
This is its own category. This is just a
yes.
crazy one.
This one's called Mr. Bingley, Just as a Gentleman Ought to Be. And long story short, Bingley, when he goes off screen or off page in Pride and Prejudice, is actually a secret assassin.
Yep. A
So,
righteous one.
a righteous assassin. There you go. So he's like a vigilante, but not in the way that that other book was a vigilante. It's a different vigilante.
Lots of vigilantes and they have their own categories. And this one is more just for a season type of vigilante, not a lifetime vigilante.
Special ops. Special ops.
Special ops.
I find it so funny that just in 2025, this is going to be the third vigilante-esque book that we have read. Well, four if you count the two Summer Hanford books as, being separate, not just one. So
People just hunger for justice, Emily.
I think so. It's just the time we are in. But
Yeah.
I am so excited to talk about that book next with you, and we'll talk at you later.
Bye.